Hi class, and welcome to lesson 2.2, Divide by one-digit divisors. Let's begin by taking a look at our essential question. How do you solve and check division problems? Well, let's begin by taking a look at our Unlock the Problem. Jenna's family is planning a trip to Oceanside, California. They will begin their trip in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and will travel 2,754 miles over 9 days. If the family travels an equal number of miles every day, how far would they travel each day? Well, let's see what we need to do. We need to underline the sentence that tells you what you are trying to find. Of course, that's going to be our question in our word problem. So if we go back, it says, if the family travels an equal number of miles every day, how far will they travel each day? That is our question. Then it says to circle the numbers you need to use. Well, we know that they will travel 2,754 miles over the course of their entire trip, and their trip lasts 9 days. And we see that it says if they travel an equal number. We know when we see equal number with a total, we know that we need to divide. So we will begin by dividing 2,754 divided by 9. So look at step 1. It says to use an estimate to place the first digit in the quotient. Well, if we take 2,754, we see at the very beginning in this 27 in our dividend and 9 in our divisor, we know that we have a basic fact of 9 times blank equals 27. And with that basic fact, we know that 9 times 3 equals 27. So we can put our 3 down here in our estimate, and we see that we replace the 5 and the 4 with zeros, so that would be 2 zeros. So 2,700 divided by 9 equals 300. So the first digit of the quotient is in the, well, let's see, if we take 2,754 divided by 9, we know we can't do 2 divided by 9, so we know that we have to use 27 divided by 9, so we're going to place our first digit of the quotient in the hundreds place. Okay, then step 2 says to divide the hundreds. So if we come over here, we see that we have 27 hundreds, and 27 divided by 9 gives us our 3. And since we can't do 2 divided by 9, we will place an X or a 0 over the 2 as a placeholder, and we will do our 27 divided by 9, which gives us 3. 3 times 9 is 27. And 27 minus 27 gives us 0. So it says our next step is to divide the tens. So in order to divide the tens, we will need to bring down our tens beside our 0. So now we see that 5 divided by 9, well, we know we can't do that. We can't take 5 candy bars and give it to 9 friends. So we have to put a 0 as a placeholder above the tens. 0 times 9 is 0. 5 minus 0 is 5. Then it says our next step is to divide the ones. Well, in order to divide the ones, we will need to bring our ones down beside our 5 to give us 54. Now we know that 54 divided by 9 gives us 6. 6 times 9 is 54, and 54 minus 54 is 0. So since 306 is close to the estimate of 300, remember our estimate up here, the answer is reasonable. So Jenna's family will travel 306 miles each day. Now let's take a look at the next example. And at the very top it says to connect division and multiplication are inverse operations. Inverse operations, remember from our previous lesson, are opposite operations that undo each other. You can use multiplication to check your answer to a division problem. So let's take a look at our example. It says, to check your answer to a division problem, multiply the quotient, which remember is the answer to a division problem, by the divisor, which is the number outside the box. If there is a remainder, add it to the product being the answer to your multiplication problem. The result should equal the dividend being what's inside the box. So we've got our quotient of 102. Our divisor is 6, so we would multiply those together. So when we multiply those together, we see that 102 times 6, 2 times 6 is 12, carry our 1, 0 times 6 is 0, plus 1 is 1, and 1 times 6 is 6. So we get 612. However, we had a remainder, so we need to remember to add our remainder to the 612 to the product, this being the product, and that gives us 2 plus 2 is 4, 1 plus nothing is 1, and 6. And you see that our dividend, or our answer matches our dividend of 614. So since the result of the check is equal to the division is correct. 614 divided by 6 is 102, remainder 2. Now you can use what you know about checking division to find an unknown value. For example, we have 63 as our quotient, 7 is our divisor. So now we can create a multiplication or an inverse operation of our division problem to find what our dividend would be. So n would be our dividend, 7 is our divisor, times, because that's the inverse operation of division, 63, which is our quotient. So when we multiply those out, we take 63 times 7. 3 times 7 is 21. Carry our 2 to our 10 spot. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 2 is 44. So when we multiply those out, we know that our dividend, or n, equals 441. Now you can also do the same thing to find out what your remainder is going to be. Because remember, you can take your quotient of 125, multiply it by your divisor, so 6 times 125 plus n, because we have to add our remainder to it to get our dividend. So when we multiply that out, we have 125 times 6. 5 times 6 is 30. 2 times 6 is 12, 15, carry our 1. 1 times 6 is 6, plus our 1 is 7. But we see we're a little off from what our dividend is supposed to be. So then we can take our dividend of 752 minus our product of 750, and we see our answer to 0, 0 is 2, so we know that our remainder is going to be 2. So down here, we know that n, which represents our remainder, equals 2. Okay, now let's take a look at our problem of the day. It says, Mr. Little has 125 cows on his farm. He has 3 barns for the cows. About how many cows are in each barn? Well, let's see what it is that we need to answer. It says, about how many cows are in each barn. Well, about means that we are going to have to round, because we're estimating. So now we have 125 cows, 3 barns. So 125 cows, let's take a look at our numbers, and 3 barns. What we are doing when we are rounding, barns, not with a D, B-A-R-N-S. Now what we are doing when we are rounding or about is we are looking at the first couple numbers to find a basic fact. And we see that the first 2 numbers of 125 is 12, and our divisor is going to be 3. So we have a basic fact there of 12 divided by 3 equals 4. And since we had to replace our 5 then becomes a 0 when we round, we see that our answer is going to be 40. So our correct response would be D, about 40. Look for those basic facts when it's asking about or to round. Alright guys, be sure you record this in your class notes as proof that you watched the video, did your homework tonight, and I will see you in class tomorrow.